Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Walk Off. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. I am aware we did miss Mailbag this week. Not that we didn't try. We
We
had
did.
it planned.
Well,
We had it planned for.
hold on. You tried. I slept right through it. And I owe you an apology. So,
uh, so we were going to do it on Tuesday, and then we decided, you know what, we'll move it to Thursday. And then, yes, Adam did happen to sleep through the mailbag. But this is what we're doing. We're doing like a combo Friday episode, mailbag episode. So we are going to tackle some of your comments from the last week. I know that we dropped the ball on most of them, and apologies to you, but we're doing what we can here. I am in Florida right now. Walk off is in Dunedin. We have been going to games, and I keep getting messages from people being like, Adam should come with you. And I said, yes, he should. So I don't know. Putting
yeah,
that in there for maybe next year.
if I wasn't afraid to fly, oh my God, I'm terrified to fly. If there was if there was a way I could just take some
Take a horse
fentanyl.
and buggy to Florida. You
Yeah,
would.
that's a nicer trip. Yeah, I mean, I have been watching a lot of Yellowstone prequels, and that wagon
right.
ride across the states
That
sure looks
wagon ride
fun.
across the
Sure
across the
looks fun.
Midwest. You never die doing that. If that
No,
show has taught me anything, exactly.
exactly. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so again, we do appreciate all of you reaching out and all of your interaction over the last week, even though we're just scratching the surface of it here. You can always reach out to us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. Join the Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. Of course, we really appreciate all of you who have already done that. We run extra content in Patreon, MLB Mondays, every single Monday. We're running currently writing a show called Around the Horn. Well, that title is
A
probably
placeholder.
not going to happen. Yes, exactly. But so we've got basically the behind the scenes of the writing of that. Joel joins us every single week, and we get into that. And there's all sorts of other little perks. You can talk to the fellow Patreon members once you get
Yeah.
into Discord. That is included. So, anyways, that's our little
Ar-
spiel for
Around the
Patreon.
Horn, by the way, is more than has unfortunately become more than just a theoretical hobby
Yes.
at this point. It's been in the works for years now. We've been, I think, bandying the idea about since our movie reviews we used to do, and how there hasn't been a good baseball movie in a while. But yeah, now we're like,
Yeah. There's actual
we've
interest.
got a pilot funded that we're filming in June, and we're going through the casting
Yeah.
process right now. So yeah, there's actually
Wild and crazy.
yeah, who knows? Anyway,
Adam
still
and
a
I
long
have been
ways
in
to go on
the
that. But
Adam and I have been in the entertainment industry long enough to know that until you actually have your hatched chickens, you should stop counting eggs. But the fact we have eggs,
man, I
we
love
didn't have
scrambled
eggs
eggs.
just a year ago. We had no eggs. So
I mean, I don't think there's a person in the world, other than like vegans and vegetarians, who don't like eggs at all. You got to admit, chicken better than eggs. Like, give me a nice piece of fried chicken, chicken breast, chicken patty, whatever. For sure, better than eggs.
gladly admit that.
Eggs are still good.
Gladly admit that.
I'll still take eggs.
Yes, I will also still take eggs. Okay, so let's get into this. It's been a pretty cool week in Florida, by the way. If anyone out there is a big baseball fan and just likes the idea of low stakes, easygoing, chill atmosphere, spring training is a must. It has been just, my wife is loving it. She's even yesterday though, she was like, man, I can't wait for the regular season. Like
Yeah.
February 29th, like that game yesterday, man, that was so hard to watch. I'm just like, can we get any runs? Like I
Yeah.
know I've watched enough baseball to know not to read too much into the first week of spring training, but the fact that their problems are mimicking their problems from last year does put me into a bit of a panic. And I know that I'm not alone with the fan base, and I know that the responses to a lot of stuff on Twitter shows that the fan base is also pretty worried about this. I know I took a picture. Ross Atkins was in one of the booths yesterday at the game, and he was
Okay.
out on the balcony just on his phone, and I took a picture of him and I just captioned it, is Scott Boras responding to any of your texts, right? And it's just like, and man, the response, like everyone's like, and these are people that I know one month ago was like, don't bring back Matt Chapman. And now we're watching what's happening at third base, and we're like, you know what? Maybe Matt Chapman on a pillow deal 1 year, you know?
Yeah.
Yesterday, honestly, dude, the best part of yesterday's game, I didn't even see it until afterwards. And it was the interview Sportsnet did with Spencer Horowitz. As a
Okay.
fellow game board fan, you're going to like this, but he was asked where
Game
he's
board.
staying.
Nice.
Board games, just mixing words up, throwing them in any order. Orders don't matter with words, right?
All right.
But he mentioned that he is rooming with Ernie Clement and Davis Schneider, and that their nightly routine is they play Settlers of Catan 4 or 5 games.
Nice.
Like, yeah, I guarantee they're just sitting
love it.
around having the odd beer and eating peanuts or something, playing Settlers of Catan.
Yeah.
They're just like us. Baseball players are just like us.
Amazing. Well, there you go. Sounds like a fun time.
I also got a kick out of, in this interview with Spencer Horowitz, friend of the show, they asked who does the cooking, and I guess it's Davis Schneider. And they asked him what he cooks, and he says mostly eggs and meat.
Eggs.
And I got a big kick out of this. This is a friend of the show. She's the one who got that shirt made up for me. Analytics versus everybody. Megs. Follow her on Twitter at Megs Murr. But she had a meme that just cracked me up. I'll see if I can get it on there for those of you there. But it says, I heard Davis Schneider cooks meat and eggs. So I bought meat and eggs. I just
Nice. All right.
Okay, moving into real talk here. Just again, as we do, Adam, weeding out the casuals.
I thought it was gonna be like, I heard Davis Schneider likes to eat meat and eggs, so I've changed my name to Meat and Eggs or something.
See, there's the meme. That's the meme.
All right,
Megs,
get on it, Megs. Meat and eggs, kind of shorthand. Megs. It works.
Yeah, there you go, Megs.
It plays.
Meat
Megs is short.
Megs.
Megs needs to announce that her full name is Meat and Eggs. It's been shortened to Megs, but there you go. Okay, Megs, there we got there for you.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
all the casuals are gone now.
Ran into Arden 2 days ago. Arden Zwelling, friend of the show. And he actually, Adam, mentioned you by name. He's like, oh, tell Adam I say hello. I was like, wow, you know who we are. I will.
And hello back to Arden. There you go.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I know what the Sportsnet guys need to go through a process to be on podcasts now, but Arden did say that he'll come on in April and join us. So
he's like, you just can't release the episode. He's like, I'll still come talk.
Yeah, I'll come talk, but you can't put it out there. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, okay. I'm out of breath, so that's a good time to start the mailbag.
Perfect time.
So first and foremost, we kind of touched on it, but I don't know, dozens, hundreds of comments, mostly just on your vlogs with your wife down in spring training, and everybody's like, oh, I'm not a jealous person usually, but you guys are having a lot of fun, and I feel like I'm missing out, or FOMO at level 100, or love you guys, or you guys are relationship goals, and bleh, all the gross stuff. So there you go.
Buddy, the amount of people who have DM'd me that are like, I hope you know how lucky you are that your wife likes baseball. I'm like, yes, I do. Stop bothering me.
No, it's good.
It's funny because Taylor was talking about that. She's like, everyone keeps telling me that you're so lucky. And I'm like, yeah, but you tell them you're so lucky you had a husband that pushed baseball on you nonstop until you finally gave in, right? That's your response? Yes. She's like, get out of here.
Exactly. All right, so let's go with Matt Chapman talk. So Sloppy Bag of Donuts on Twitter reached out after a conversation with Avery from Gate 14. Thanks again to Avery for coming on. Oh, by the way, we got one comment on, I think it was Patreon. I can't remember who from. So apologies to them. But they commented, love seeing Avery on the show. It's nice because he actually got to talk more here than he does on his normal Gate 14 podcast. So I thought that was funny.
That's too funny. I'll have to. But when you find that comment, send
All
it to
right,
me, and I'll
will do.
forward it to Avery and
Will
Johnny.
do. There you go. So I just watched today's episode, loved it. The problem with Chapman taking a 1-year deal with anyone but the Jays is the draft pick compensation for rejecting the qualifying offer.
And I think this is why the Blue Jays being in on Matt Chapman is not dead in the water. It's becoming more and more apparent that there isn't term available for Matt Chapman like originally thought. Guaranteed in April, Scott Boras was sitting Matt Chapman down and he's like, I hope you get ready and you enjoy $200 million because that's exactly what you're going to get. Obviously, not to the dollar because I got to get my commission, but we are getting $200 million, right? And well, then Matt Chapman proceeded to have the worst 5 months of his entire career and kind of submarined his own big deal. So the qualifying offer was then, I mean, Jays fans, we remember this. The qualifying offer, Jays fans were actually like, should we, like, what if he takes it? Like, should we risk it? Right. And here we are now. We're all like, well, maybe he'll come back. Like,
Yeah.
but it is a really good point by Sloppy Bag of Donuts is that, you know what? The qualifying offer is no small thing. Now, the Blue Jays would receive fourth round draft pick compensation, which is in the baseball draft. I mean, it's such a shit shoot for the first 5 rounds, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shit shoot for all of them because there's
Yeah.
always like 2 to 3 years of development, even with the highest end prospects. You know, like if your guys are starting to graduate at 20, like you're really doing it right developmentally and you're still putting 2 years of time in. So a fourth rounder does have some value and there is upside there. And I think it is one of the reasons why Matt Chapman hasn't already been offered a Cody Bellinger type deal where maybe there's a 2 or 3 years of commitment with a player opt out after every year. So is there a scenario where maybe he would take a 1-year deal, bet on himself, and roll back out to the free agent market at 30? Like he's 29 going on 30. Like Matt Chapman's not that old. He's just a guy that you look at his numbers from last year and you're like, do I wish to invest 6 years into this guy? Nobody does, right? So with that qualifying offer being out there and him rejecting it, like what does he sign for? That's the question people keep DMing because I know we've mentioned this a few times, right? That Matt Chapman does still fit with the Jays. And everyone brings up IKF and everyone says, well, they've got their third baseman, but IKF doesn't excite me. And yeah, if
You
we
can't
overpaid
take
for a utility
IKF's
guy,
bat out of a lineup. Like, I mean, if you're replacing it with Matt Chapman's, who cares? I guess.
I it's a weird situation with Matt Chapman because even the haters recognize the value he has at the hot corner. It's just, can we handle watching him whiff on 92-mile-an-hour fastballs down the middle? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a hole at third base with this Toronto Blue Jays team? Yes, there is. There absolutely is. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited about Damiano Parmigiani. I'm excited that maybe that there's a guy in the weeds who could really come up and make a big difference. Am I excited about IKF taking most of the time there? Like that's who's going to take a lot of the time at third base. It's going to be IKF. I think Justin Turner is going to get some time there. We'll probably even see Davis Schneider get some reps there from time to time. Is Matt Chapman better defensively? Hell yeah. Better than all three.
Yeah.
I know IKF has a good glove, but
there's holes in this lineup for sure. I was reading an article on MLB.com this morning, actually. It was titled, How Concerned Should Each Contender Be About Its Starting Rotation? Okay, like scale of 1 to 10, right? You go down the list, it's like Cardinals, concern level 9, Orioles, concern level 7, Rays, level 7. I think Yankees were level 6. You go down the list. Do you know what the concern level was for the Jays in this article? Unlisted. Not a contender.
yeah.
That's probably good for us. honestly. But
Yeah.
it also speaks levels to the when we look at this lineup and we're not thrilled with it,
Mm-hmm.
it's not impressive. Like, there's a couple guys, but top to bottom, this is one of the worst lineups we've had in
The
recent
last 3
years.
years, I would say so. Yeah,
So
since 2021, I mean 2021 I would say was the roster construction I preferred. 2022 same, and even last year I like that's the thing is that yeah, we're pretty much running back the same roster as last year, but without Matt Chapman. And I know how much WAR pisses some people off because a WAR player plays really well defensive. Like a good WAR does include the defensive metrics, especially with a guy like Chapman, who had around a 3.5 WAR last year. So I don't know,
and
man.
4 of
They
that was
say,
based on defense.
yeah, literally, yeah, like truly. They say one WAR, one win above replacement's worth $8 million. So if you do the math on that, Matt Chapman last year, I think he was getting 12.5. So big value there last year, right?
That, hold on. The math doesn't track with this. One WAR is worth $8 million?
That's
Because
what
is
they
this
try and say.
so a guy that gets like a 9 WAR wins MVP worth
No
$70
one's getting a
million?
9 WAR. But if you get a 6 WAR, yeah.
Hold on. This is great entertainment right here. Like Google WAR leaders by season. Oh no, I don't care about fucking 1907 WAR leaders. Well, Shohei Ohtani, 10.
Yes.
Aaron Judge, 10.6. Mookie Betts, 10.7. Mike Trout, like 9 every year. It's not worth $8 million a WAR.
Well,
A guy that has one a WAR of 1, barely an MLB player. He's not getting $8 million, is he?
IKF did.
I don't know. I'm not buying this. I'll hear what
This
you're
is not
saying, but
my formula.
I know. I'm not throwing you under the bus here. I'm saying wherever you got this, I'm dismissing that. I think this scale of
Yeah.
$8 million per singular WAR, I'm not buying it. I
You
think
don't
this is
like it.
hokey.
You're not
Whoever came
buying
up
it.
with this looked at someone with a 2 WAR that got 16 million and they did a quick math. I don't think this scales. I don't think it checks out. I think it's hokey. Sorry. I'm calling malarkey on this one. There you
go. I should have Googled this before this. Okay, we'll move on because people watching us just Google things isn't really the best show.
Google things and do math, okay?
Okay, before we move on though, honest question. Yes or no? Would you feel better with Matt
Yes.
Chapman at third base? Okay, me too.
Although I know I just made this WAR is not worth 8 million. Danny Jansen 1.6 WAR. That's 12.8 million. I'd take Danny Jansen for 12.8 million. He's going to get a lot of money. Free agent Danny Jansen at the end of this season, by the way.
Yes. Homegrown talent, Danny Jansen.
How do you feel about Alejandro Kirk as our only catcher?
Oh, no. We need Jano back. We desperately need Jano back. I'm not ready.
I know that
for life without Danny Jansen.
I know the sexy conversation to be had, and it doesn't take you long to Google Blue Jays on YouTube to see all of the Vladimir Guerrero disrespect, future unknown thumbnails. Danny Jansen's coming up right away. And if we don't pay him and he leaves, we're like, yuck. I don't know, man. Danny Jansen is You could say what you want about
Danny
like his injury
Jansen.
history or his ability to stay on the field, whether he's injury prone or it's some unlucky breaks. Yeah,
I just
but
feel like I feel like Danny Jansen has far more value to this organization than any other team in baseball. He is so entrenched in the Blue Jays pitching staff. He knows the way the organization runs. And I'm not saying that obviously after a year with another team, he wouldn't know those pitchers just as well and be just as comfortable and all of that. But
Mhm.
he's already got that groundwork laid with the Blue Jays. And so to re up on a guy who just is already comfortable, already knows the organization, knows what Pete Walker's trying to do with the pitching staff, is on board with the coaching and what they're trying to do with the pitchers. It just makes too much sense. Just bring them back. Like I'm not saying overpay them, but
yeah, I don't know. It's if he gets to free agency though, like if he gets to the end of the year without a deal, there's not a lot of other appealing. Like if I
there's
haven't gone down the list of who needs a catcher. That's some homework I got to
mhm.
do this weekend. But there's no other 29-year-old catchers in free agency this year. You're looking at a
With
35-year-old
30 home run
vet.
power.
Or that's the
I
thing,
know
right? Like
he's injury prone, but like
yeah, just a guy that you could put in your lineup and know he's going to hit for power and manage your rotation. Like
yeah,
yeah, I mean, he has to learn the new rotation and get comfortable with guys, but like he's 29, he's got a
yeah,
lot of tread on the tires for him to figure out
yeah.
your wherever you bring him, right? Like
Hmm.
so I don't know. It's Danny Jansen's going to be an appealing target, I think, for a lot of teams who are in the market for a catcher, and that
And
concerns me because
this
I
is
don't like the
where
idea of a future with Alejandro Kirk plus.
whatever old guy you pick up off the free
Yeah,
agent market, I
yeah.
guess. Like
I
it's
don't.
not like there's a lot of catching depth
We don't have a
in
pipeline of
this
catchers. No.
that we don't. You know, Zach Britton is probably the highest touted prospect that can catch with the Blue Jays, and he's 25, and the shine is kind of off him a little bit.
Well, and
Like
what does everyone always say about like World Series teams? They've always got like a dearth of veteran catching
experience,
experience, right? You're not going to the
always.
World Series with a rookie catcher, and the
Yeah.
idea of yeah, it's just whew,
And I
that one
mean,
stresses me out.
we've done this math and we've given this stat a few times now, but outside of the 2020 Los Angeles Dodgers with Will Smith at the head, every other World Series winner in the last 10 years has over 10 years of catching experience on their bench.
Yeah.
And there are some of them that were so much experience, right? Like the 2016 Cubs is a good example of like I think they had like something like 35 years of catching experience
Mm-hmm.
on the bench, right? So yeah. Who
Yeah, I don't know. It's oof.
cares, right?
What's that? You cut out.
Like you said, right? Tread on the tires. Like
Yeah.
he's been there, done that.
He's exactly how much experience you would want if this team was firing on all cylinders and making deep playoff runs. You go, man, I'm sure glad we got a young but experienced catcher like Danny Jansen. Like, ugh. If this team was just doing better, you'd feel so much better. Weird how that works.
Yeah.
Before we move on from Matt Chapman and the whole Scott Boras of it all, Cody Bellinger at his press conference to sign with the Cubs, which is always weird when a guy resigns and has a press conference,
Hmm.
anyways. But that's a Scott Boras thing, right? He wants the show of it all. Scott Boras commenting on it being how was that worded? He didn't call collusion, but he tiptoed around it
Hmm.
and was hinting with interesting choice of words. Again, if I was a better podcaster, I would have the quote pulled up. This is just coming to me off the top of my head. Anyways, the idea of like Bellinger and everybody's market being deflated via some interesting circumstances, right? And
Right.
we're just
All the teams have gotten together, right? And they've looked at Cody Bellinger and Matt Chapman, and they were like, you know what? Are well aware that these are perfect players that will just fit in and kill it without any doubt in anyone's mind. We absolutely should give them 8 years each at over 200 million. But we're not going to. We're not going to. We're all going to hold fast and drive down the market. Listen, I know I'm really taking the owner's side on this, but it's just on in this particular case. I mean, these free agents that Boris has as clients, they have so many warts, man. Like outside of Blake Snell, who should already be signed, they're all big question marks around them.
Yeah, I guess I'm not saying that he's entirely accurate in hinting at collusion, but
Yeah, he's not wrong either, probably.
and the concern is we're like halfway through this CBA. And this next CBA I think is like last one we didn't miss any time, right? Did we miss any games last season? Or last CBA?
No games were missed, but the season was pushed
Delayed,
like
right?
3 weeks or something like that.
Right. Felt very close to a shortened season potentially. Like we're really pushing up on deadlines. This next CBA is going to be even worse. Like things aren't getting any less complicated. You've frozen on me, Scott. No, you're back. Okay. We've got teams like the Rangers and the Mariners and I think the Diamondbacks that are all with like their sports broadcast network deals are falling through and stuff. These sports broadcast agencies are going bankrupt and not. Oh, it was the Padres, I think. So a lot of these teams are in these like weird financial limbos where they don't know how much money they can spend because even though they have an agreement for their broadcast rights, if they're not getting checks clearing, what does it matter, right?
Yeah.
So if one aspect of your income defaults and you go bankrupt, you've still got to come up with money to pay your guys and to pay, your own stuff that's on the books. So between that, and I don't think that's going to get any simpler as we continue to get deeper into like the streaming rights and services, right? Like, we had the writers actors strike last year, right? Was it past winter, of like, these previous deals that were getting done, and now you see a show like Friends is back on Netflix, and the producers are making a shit ton of money, but the actors aren't getting like any residuals because that wasn't a thing to even put in your contract 25 years ago.
Yes.
So it's free money for the wrong people. And just like there's money to be divvied up that we don't know how it's going to even be accounted for yet. So I think there's going to be a lot of like things on both sides to be like, hey, we want a fair share of a pie that we don't know what the pie even is yet. And the gambling's only going to get worse. Not worse, but worse. But like become more of a factor. And then when you throw collusion talks on top of it, like, oof.
Yeah.
A couple years from now, when the CBA
it could be 2026 could be a very messy CBA, and it could lead to some sort of lockout strike. Who knows, man?
So, yeah,
shit, that came up fast, eh?
I know, it sure did. What was it? 2026, I think it is. I think we have 2 seasons left on it.
Yeah, 2026. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's oof. All right, toxic positivity here, Scott. Let's move on.
All right.
Jennifer reached out on Twitter and said, "Hey guys, love the pod. Just wanted to put my head in the ring for Mailbag. Wanted to send my love and well wishes to the Swanson family. I couldn't imagine going through what they are going through."
Yeah, what an unfortunate thing to happen. At the hotel they were staying in, Eric Swanson's little boy wound up getting hit by a car. He was in intensive care, but he is out of that and he is on the upswing. And thank God kids are resilient. But oh man, like What a horrible thing to start the ball season with. It also does give you a little perspective, right? Of like, yeah, baseball's important, but
Yeah.
there are more important things.
Truly, truly, truly.
Yeah. So no, definitely echo Jennifer's sentiment of, of sending our love and well wishes to the Swanson family. Like, my goodness, hopefully Eric's back with the team here and his little boy Toby is healthy and re-energized soon enough. So pretty much all we can do.
Speaking of Toby, which is your favorite Spider-Man?
Probably
To-
Toby Maguire, but
Tobey
that's
Maguire,
because
Andrew Garfield,
that's
Tom
just
Holland. 3 good choices. I think all 3 of them are good.
they are all good. And I'm going to take the stance of, you know what? It's the Saturday Night Live syndrome. The Saturday Night Live that people like the most is always the one where it's their formative years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Toby Maguire, Spider-Man, that's when I was like in my late teens, early 20s. And I was
Right.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
Toby Maguire,
Spider-Man.
come
Fair.
on. That's my Mary Jane, you
That's
know?
fair. That's my Mary Jane. All right. Um yeah, I don't know. I guess my dad's still a big Adam West fan when it comes to Batman, so that checks out. Wins above replacement on Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. Okay, sorry. Let's move on. All right. Because he had he had a couple great seasons and then he had Spider-Man 3 and
Yeah.
anyways. All right, let's move on, shall we? Dr. Interest reached out over Twitter, said it was nice to meet you today, brother. Hope you enjoyed the rest of your time in Florida. How many
Yeah.
I don't want to say walk-off fans because that's not a thing. But how many people familiar with the Walk-Off podcast have you run into down in Florida on
A
this trip?
dozen.
That's pretty cool.
I bet a dozen. Yeah. I was stopped 4 times by listeners 2 days ago. And one of them was Dr. Internet, which has been, following
Mm-hmm.
the show for years and years. And it was kind of cool to get a message from him afterwards. It made me laugh that he just introduced himself with his regular name, didn't mention who he was, and then sent me a message being like, hey.
Okay, hold on. Of course you wouldn't introduce yourself by your internet handle.
Hey, I'm Dr. Internet. I guess that would be weird.
Dr. Internet sounds like a guy who invented antivirus software,
Antivirus software, yeah.
Hey, I'm
Yeah.
Doctor. You got
Internet.
computer problems? I got Doctor Internet for you. Although
Install Dr. Internet and all your problems will be solved.
Exactly. I do catch myself from time to time saying LOL. Do you ever do that?
No, I'm just
okay.
a little older than you know, bud. So
Right.
I've dodged that bullet, I guess.
All right. Do you type out LOL in your text? Do you use LOL in text? If your wife says something hilarious?
I normally I lean far heavier on haha, but yes, I will LOL.
Gotcha.
Specifically if I'm ha-haing earlier and then I don't want to repeat it, so I LOL.
More
Right?
sincere that way to mix it up.
More sincere that way. Even
Yeah.
though I never laugh out loud. I've never laughed out loud at a text. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Your text I have. Any LOL you got, Adam, those are genuine.
LOL, Scott. LOL. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, well that's kind of it for Mailbag other than just rehashing all the polite courtesies we've received. So
we did get a bunch of comments on the Chad Dallas interview, and that's very cool. Appreciate that you guys enjoy those interviews so much. We also got a bunch of feedback on the Damiano Parmigiani interview. For all of you who didn't figure this out, we know that the internet was horrible on the Parmigiani interview, and apologies. The first 10 minutes was pretty solid and listenable, and it did get worse and worse throughout. We talked about not releasing it, and we were just like, there's enough good stuff here that we'll put it out there, and if you hate it, you hate it.
You know what Damiano Parmigiani needs? Dr. Internet.
Dr. Internet. There it
Fix
is.
that internet.
Full circle. You know what made me
Circle.
laugh about the Parmigiani interview? Chad Dallas is his roommate. And I was just like,
Same internet.
how is it possible? Their fucking internets are so different, but literally running off the same modem.
Yeah. Crazy.
Only the doctor would know. Yeah.
Only the doctor would know. All right. What else do you want to talk
Oh,
about?
one last thing. One last thing before we get out of here. I did just wish to touch on some of these young guys in the Blue Jays organization. One of the guys that really stood out to me was Stuart Baroa. And this is he's a 25-year-old Dominican kid. He's playing in Double-A right now. So he's with New Hampshire. He's getting some big league spring training action. Center field is his position. But man, how much this kid goes out of his way to connect with the kids in the front row, it is so admirable. And it just warms my heart to see this guy. Because that's the thing, right? Like if you're a 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid, baseball, it's exciting, it's fun, it's long, it's boring, right? Like it's a double-edged sword. And to get these kids to buy into the game, you need stuff like these minor league guys who'll come up man, and this wasn't just once, by the way. This was every game we've gone to. Stuart Baroa heads and shoulders above everyone else with the amount of time he's putting in, just signing balls. There were these two little kids. I'd met their parents earlier. They were from Saskatchewan, and there were these two little kids all done up in their Blue Jays gear. And they were just like, all the guys were walking by, and they were just like hands on the mesh, right? And they were just like face up, like just watching all these major leaguers walk by. And Stuart Baroa comes up with his bag, and he's like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And he's got broken English. He's barely able to communicate, and he's like talking with them. And he signs their card, like they had little sheets of paper they were collecting autographs on. So he signed their autograph, and then he's like, do you want a ball? And so he goes into his bag and he grabs a couple of major league balls and he signs these balls, and he's showing them the major league stamp on it. And like, buddy, like these kids, you'd think they just like found God. Like it was awesome to watch. Like it made my skin crawl. They were just like, oh my goodness, like what? They're like showing all the other people around them, like, look at this, I got a ball. But I just, tip of the hat to guys like that, man. Like,
I'm sorry, this is not the point of your story, but I just can't get past it. I've never heard in the history, 35 years of my life, never once heard skin crawl be used in a good way. So tip of the hat to you.
Oh, okay.
Is that a common thing? Made my skin crawl.
I've always used it in a good way. Like,
really? I've only ever heard it in like disgust or fury. Like, when someone like, you come to a 4-way stop and someone goes out of turn, it just makes my skin crawl.
Okay.
Never.
Okay.
That might not have been the best example, but
Grounds crew, we need you to drop your comments below now.
Skin crawl. Basically,
do people ever? Or am I just an insane person?
No.
Please set us straight.
We need to figure this out because we're about to design the merch, and we need to know skin crawlers. Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Yeah.
All right.
Maybe I should have said gave me goosebumps. That could be said positively, right?
What are goosebumps?
You know when you get like little goosebumps on your skin? I don't know.
I'm just kidding. I've heard of goosebumps.
Okay, man.
You're supposed to be more shocked that I haven't heard of goosebumps.
I'm trying to dig out of this hole I'm in, and now you threw the goosebumps thing in there, and now I'm
All right. Well, we've gone off the rails at the front and back end of this show. Can we just get out of here with the Alek Manoah positivity?
So I did see him pitch when he was in those 2 innings. Nice. 38 pitches, hit 3 guys. He was not hitting his spots, man. And you could see the hitters were getting into the batter's box and they were nervous because he was hitting 94, 95. Like his velo was where it should be. But he just was like, man, the third guy they hit, like he just threw his bat down. He was so mad. And like Alec tips his hat and is like, I'm sorry. And the guy's like, yeah, well, fucking stop hitting us. Like,
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, okay. He
Level of
pitches.
concern on Alek Manoah then.
I'm
This,
concerned.
yeah.
I'm concerned. I mean, not to the point where I'm going to be waving any red flags here because it is the first outing of his spring. So
I know
like,
that's the
let's,
thing, man. Is we always say like the only thing that matters in spring training is health. You know, if a
yeah.
guy isn't injured, it was a good spring training. Numbers don't matter. Performance doesn't matter. I
Small
have a
sample size, but to quote you, the best
like,
small sample size is a good small sample size, right? So
yes, exactly. Look, it's I'm really struggling to write that off, that first performance, only because man, does he ever need to come out of the gates like a bat out of hell to get that monkey off
mhm.
his back. And I'm sorry if that's a racist term. I don't know what terms are okay
I don't
anymore.
think
So
so. I
I don't
don't
think
think
so either,
so.
but you know, you call someone a bitch and now you're a misogynist. So I don't know. It's I don't know. I'm
Call
apologizing for
someone a
existing
dumb,
right now.
stupid bitch, and all of a sudden you're an asshole.
Right, exactly. This is my white privilege showing here. But my thing with Alec Manoah is he has to be aware of it, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
this is what was worrying me, Adam, is that like I even got a couple messages from people being like, was he overthrowing? Did it seem like he was overthrowing? The truth is, no, it didn't seem like he was overthrowing. What it seemed like is he was in his head. It seemed like he was towing the rubber, and in his brain, he was like, do not hit this guy.
that's like okay. So I texted my dad about this. Because he later that day asked me if I saw uh how it was going. And of course I did. Um so I texted him and I said, yeah, not the kind of start we were hoping for with pressure on him more than ever. His first regular season start is going to be big pressure. I don't know if he breaks camp with the team or if he starts in AAA. I don't know. I'm really curious to see how that plays out. Like, is he our
I
fifth
am too.
guy? Does he get AAA? Is that if he starts in AAA, is that good for him? Are they protecting him? Is he going to take it as a slight the way he did last year? Like, there's just
I don't
so
know,
many
man.
wrinkles to this. I don't know. But once he does inevitably make his MLB debut this season, like his first start, there's so much pressure, right? Because if he comes out and had the start he just had where he hits three guys and throws 40% strikes, like, so
And
I
do
say to
you
my
want to
dad,
shelter him? Like, this is a question for you.
I
Do you
know that's
want
the
to
thing
shelter
is
him?
you almost got to set fire and see where it burns and then move on, right? Like you're either
Like,
moving on with him or you're moving on without him. But like questions do just need to be answered at some point
yes.
for sure. But so I feel like I'm going to just whisper this because I don't want to actually speak it into existence. But the yips is a real
Mm.
concern.
Big time. Big time.
And for anybody that's not from, because my dad had never heard of the yips before, which I thought was crazy, but it's like involuntary spasms that are like kind of like psychologically related.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the yips cycle. Uh, you have a fear of missing again. You want to avoid embarrassment. You over control stroke. Yips or over control. You fail again, which leads to more embarrassment. You're worried others are going to see you fail, so then you fail again, and then you overcompensate, which leads to more miss. And it's just this is the never ending cycle. This is
Mm-hmm.
why it's a cycle, right? Where you're
Mm-hmm.
just constantly in your head of like that, like you need him to be fearless, right? Like you can't have him out there in his head
And I
at
will,
all.
I, you can't. You absolutely can't. I'm going to need to paraphrase here because I don't remember exactly how I put it. But whenever the yips are talked about, I always think about our conversation with the head of the mental performance with the Blue Jays, Robert
DiBernardo.
DiBernardo, and just asking him about the yips. And literally his eyes got wide and he's like, why would you even say it? And it's just like, there's like, there is some real psychological juju attached to the yips and what it means. And there are baseball players who have straight up lost their careers over this shit. There's guys that have been. Remember when Lourdes was a second baseman and couldn't hit first base, and they literally had to send him down to AAA and change his position. Like, think about that.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
We'll wrap it up
either.
there. We'll wrap it up there. We don't wish to get too into it, but a positive outing from Alek Manoah would be huge. He does take the mound against the Red Sox on Monday. So fingers crossed that he shows some positive regression.
Positive regression. Yep. There you go. Okay.
Okay. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. By the way, I am in Florida for another couple days. I'm at the game tomorrow. If for some reason you see me, stop and say hello. I love talking baseball. Don't be shy, all right? We'll see you all Monday for Mailbag, and for everyone on Patreon watching this, stick around. We're meeting with Joel and doing more around the horn writing and planning here ASAP. Thanks again. At Walk Off Podcast on Twitter, the Walk Off Podcast on Instagram. Cheers, everybody.